But we also use GenAI for data analysis. We use a lot of custom GPTs for preparing social media, for doing some newsletter preparation as well. One thing we do is that, sometimes for important topics or big topics that blow up on social media, we use it to summarize the comments that people are making to see what people are really talking about. And that helps us to guide our reporting into what we can do on a follow-up story, for example. One thing is also house style guidance. Nobody remembers 100% of what your house style looks like. I don't remember everything, so that's always helpful in checking how using a custom GPT as well. And finally, things like roster organizing, coding, web development, and all that. Even graphics ideation, throwing a press release or throwing a whole ruling from a judge into ChatGPT and figure out what he's trying to do or what he's trying to say. Some judges love to write a lot and say nothing, right? And finally, we also use CNA Sorcerer. This is being built at this moment. It's actually a GenAI project that we did together with OneIfra and OpenAI, where we're trying to use RAG, retrieval augmented generation, to help our younger reporters find out the history of certain cases or certain stories so that they can get a quick summary of what's happened, get them up to date, and then they can write accordingly, so we don't have to spend as much time to get them up to speed on certain topics, right? As for helping our audience, we have AI Smart Cut, CNA Fast, as well as text-to-speech. So text-to-speech is kind of basic function on our app and our website where you can play the story back to yourselves, like a podcast. It's a simple implementation, and people actually really enjoy it. People like podcasts. So AI Smart Cut is our award-winning tool. What this does is that, maybe let's go back a bit. CNA is a broadcast company as well as online news. So the broadcast section, we have daily bulletins, we have the evening bulletins, and we always try to clip out the key clips to upload onto social media as well as our website so that people can watch the parts that they want to watch. Because these days people don't really watch the whole bulletin, or it's the 9 o'clock news, let's go and watch it right now. I think nobody really is so excited anymore about that, right? So we got to bring the news to where they are. So using this, it helps to detect the start and the end of certain clips, and then we can send it to our back end. So our producers don't have to spend the time to scrub through the video, find the in points and out points. They can just, it's already sent to the system, they just double check whether it's okay, and then click publish, it goes straight to YouTube, as well as the CMS. So this is CNA Fast. We launched this in March last year. What happened was, so within 8 months, we got about, if I'm not wrong, almost double our page views. So what happened was that, this one really helps it creates summaries of stories on the page, so people can quickly read through the stories that they want. This is really to serve the time-starved audience, as well as the audience who's depressed by all the news or trying to avoid the news, or they just have a bit tired of reading news all day long. So not everything is going to be a long article. We let them browse through short forms of it, like a TikTok style, swipe through the articles, and then if they want to read, they can click through. Yeah, so this it was a bit scary launching this at first because it's all summaries. What if everybody just wants summaries and then we don't have any dwell time anymore? Nobody's going to look at our ads or that. But it turns out that people who are browsing a lot more short stories and then going on to read the longer stories as well, right? Dwell time has gone up, page views have gone up, and we're working on phase 2 where we're trying to integrate more of our video content into this to make it even more like TikTok, obviously. So really, we have seen about altogether, together with Fast, as well as the main web page, about 32% increase in page views, and about everybody spends about half a minute more on average on the website because of this. So it's encouraging to see all this, and it's helpful that the newsroom was part of this whole process as we designed this together. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask you more questions about newsroom, but could you quickly answer this question? How many people actually worked on the AI project? How big is the team of people that worked on it?
Okay, so for Smart Cut, the key team was about 5 people, but we worked with partners, external partners and all that to help to get the technology going. But for CNA Fast, we had 1, 2, 3 engineers, as well as 2 of us from the newsroom working with them, trying to figure out whether the AI-generated summaries make sense, And then after that, we expanded it to the newsroom, so everybody had to test it before it went live. Everybody has to be involved in it. Everybody has to click summarize and then vet the summary and then give it a score before we send it out. So it's not like we are just going in blind with summaries and all that. Everything is vetted by humans.
Okay.
So yes, everyone involved, I guess.
Okay, thank you. But essentially 5 people from the get-go. So just want to put that in perspective.
Yeah.
And then now Gemma. And Gemma is with Rappler in the Philippines.
Hi. So, yeah, so I guess we can start with Rappler being a digital native. So we tend to jump in whenever there's something new on the digital space. And in the past, we've done work as well, like platform building and so on. So we've done work on data, a lot of data. So when AI became mainstream, the first thing that we tried to do is like, okay, play around with it and say where we can use it in a safe way. And one of the use cases that we experimented on is using it for moderating conversations online. So this is something, a small project we did with in relation to an open AI call out about AI policies. And now we're using this for other things like we have a civic engagement team that works with various communities, and they work with, one prototype was with a local government, and they use it for consultation. So it's facilitating what might a scalable focused group discussion. So the other thing is really like looking at deep fakes. We're very much concerned because we're one of the fact check partners of Facebook, and we're a fact check organization. And so it's really like all about looking at how to be more prudent about the way we jump into AI, and which means a lot of workshops, etc., and so on. So among the first experiments were really like summarization, because it's a bit more safe than other forms of AI. But beyond that, rolling out our own guidelines on the use of AI, transparency. Then another thing we ventured into is like transforming text to video, because we want visibility of content in streaming services. And we have a very small production team, so TLDR is that project. We've been using it for moderation, but a foundational build is really like how we are able to make the most of our data. So Rappler is fairly new, but we already have over 300,000 articles in our archives. And the goal is really like be able to like surface information, contextual information from that entire database so that it serves our audience in conversations and in storytelling. And what we realized is that it's not something that you can just do plug and play. So a big part of this effort is really like developing the framework and the backbone. So one of my key responsibilities is really leading the foundational data build that goes with it. So we have a knowledge graph project. We call it Athena. We just renamed it. And basically what it is like coming up with the schemas, the knowledge and engineering that goes into, that will allow the AI to interpret our content better. Because things like names can be misinterpreted, etc., by AI. So that's the big part of the build. And right now, it's been, well, from very simple things to in the more recent months, we've been able to roll out our taxonomy, a more scalable taxonomy that's topics-based and is able to draw, allow us to draw inferences like from implicitly linked to linked topics and themes and so on. So that's, and it's powering up the curation on Rappler. So being able to curate by topics, but also other things like content generation. This is something that our editorial team has started using. So we have, the AI is able to help us draw contextual information from that whole library in a more confident way. Because like what we realized is if you just use ChatGPT, it's not, you'll have to hunt for where it has made a mistake. It's like a needle in a haystack versus like, okay, the bot is able to pick up nuances from our topics and able to pinpoint where it took the facts. So that's very important to us, so that if there is a mistake, we're able to look at the source text and see if we made a mistake or the AI did. So that's a big part of it. So that's what we're doing. And
So-
we've launched
yeah.
it already.
So basically, you sort of
Yeah.
built a RAG as well. How big was your engineering team?
I can't say, but we have an external developer, but we've also are building up our own knowledge and internal knowledge engineering team. And we've been reorganizing our data and research groups so that they're able to not just provide the day-to-day, research for stories, but they're actually able to like support this foundational build.
Yeah. But how many people, roughly?
I can't say. But it's like the internal team is fairly small. We're just rebuilding the internal team.
Okay.
So it's really that.
Yeah, just want to make sure because I think people tend to think
Yeah.
we need a lot of engineering resources, but so far you could hear from the two speakers, it's actually a hybrid model, right? Very small engineering team with a vendor, and I'm going to ask you
Yeah.
guys a little bit about that later. And Ritu?
Hi. Like Rappler, the Quint in India is also a digital only. Also, just wanted to say that we don't publish everything news. We do largely documentaries, ground reports, deep analysis, opinion, investigations. So we're not like a quick news and live blogs. Sorry, you have to scroll and okay. So basically, what the problem that we were trying to solve with what I'm going to talk about quickly is user behavior is changing. People, search traffic is dying, and people are being far more interactive. If they're going to ChatGPT, they're being far more interactive and choosing what they want rather than just being, it's no longer a one-way communication. It's two-way and it's interactive. So what we're looking at, with all the doom and gloom around AI is what if AI wasn't the end of journalism, but it was the start of better reading, because we also know that people are spending less and less time. So what if you scrolled less, but retained more? What if news respected your time and intelligence? So it's not presuming that you don't know nothing and we are the keepers of all information and we will give it to you. If you were to not behave, newsrooms were to stop behaving like that. Just to clarify, what AI doesn't do at the Quint is we do not use AI for reporting or mostly for research because we don't think it's reliable. We may all have it as an input for research, but it is not. We don't use any photorealism in our GenAI, the visual content that we generate. Attribution is a must. In whichever form we are using AI, transparency with the consumer of our content on where AI has been used on the website. We're very careful about that. And all AI output has a human in the loop or it's human reviewed. We're calling it News Easy because you give it a catchy name, there's a stronger chance of the editorial team to get excited and buy in, right? It's fast to read, hard to forget. This a lot of people are doing, which is in short, which is an AI-generated summary, right? Okay, so just two things to clarify. In all of this personalization of format, we are only crawling within our content. AI is not going outside of the Quint's universe. And two, it's an opt-in. So the content comes to you in the usual format as an article or as a video, and you have the option to opt in for how you want to consume the content. So the summary right on top, just tell me what it's about. Largely 300 characters, and ends with a hook, because we are still hook question, because we are still hoping that people will get, for the want of a better word, teased into actually consuming the content more deeply. Why In Short works is because it gives you an instant context on why you should look at this article. Higher content discovery from whatever remains of SEO on Google. And we've seen that it really boosts engagement. The second way that a user can opt in on the Quint consume content is what we call the big points, which means you come in and you can opt in. The article, 4 big takeaway points are offered to you, each with a punchy header, and it's really designed for glance reading. You don't have time, but we still want you to engage with this content. And in India, we are very keen that, since most media has collapsed, that we should want to be able to. And then there is a Q&A format. You can opt in to consume the article. It's sort of self. And then we have a multiple choice question quiz at the end, just to create, sort of gaming the whole consuming experience. And we found that the average time per session with all of this has gone up to between 6 to 8 minutes per session. It's built entirely with AI. No engineers, no coding, nothing, just using AI. And everything is published. It works for everybody. You want to read the entire article, you want to just be skimming. The challenge was really capturing the nuance and voice of the author, because each article, so we really worked very closely with the team to get the nuance of the author through the prompting that we gave to AI. This is the back end. And then we also use generative AI for interactive visual content, which I'll go through in the next session. We use it to protect identities. We use it for fact-checking, because we, like Rappler, are fact-checkers as well. We use, of course, this is Webcoof, is our fact-checking.
Wow. Thank you. It seems like you guys are using it a lot, and you can find out more from the next section, but I want to give the opportunity to unpack some of the conversation a little bit. So when you guys are using the AI, right, when you first initially say, we want to use AI in our news organization, who is it that you need to convince, and what was their reaction?
I think maybe I go first. I think for us, we had to convince two groups of people. One is the leadership, who, they're always scared when there's new technology, how much will it cost, and all that. Of course, and the people around us as well, who are like, we report on AI stealing jobs and getting rid of jobs all the time. Then how about our jobs? If we implement AI in the newsroom, do we protect our jobs at the same time? So we need to convince these people that we're not here, that the AI is not here, or we hope that AI is not here to get rid of all your jobs. And we try our best to make sure we use AI in a good way, that we always have human in the loop to make sure that we don't just release something that could be wrong, but we have someone checking. And so we are transparent about AI use as well. So people get a bit more comfortable knowing that you have all these guidelines in place. Even our corporation as well, our parent company has AI guidelines as well that we can't just publish without saying that this was AI generated.
Yeah.
For example.
But before the guideline is the conversation with the leadership, same as your newsroom, because it is a lot of fear, right? We think about, will AI take our jobs? So what did you actually say to the newsroom so that they say, I'm going to try this, I'm going to trust you to do this, so that the AI is not taking my job?
So how we differed, I guess, is that Rappler is a fairly small organization from a corporation standpoint. So we have a management team, and that management team is a very small management team. And we discussed it internally within that management team. And then there was a number of organizational conversations, workshops on AI, and so on. And then the stakeholders there are editorial team, the research group, the creatives team. We have a creatives group that are really very much concerned about the use of AI. Using their content as training material and so on. So all of that was something that had to go through that process of conversations, and until now we have this chat room where we discuss all of these emerging concerns about AI, and we encourage everyone to keep researching it. So there's that, and all of that conversation flowed into the policy that we eventually published in, I think, September in 2023. Yeah.
So you actually took a very different tactic. You did workshops to educate. What kind of workshop were you doing?
We generally have these GAs when there are major concerns. Rappler does these big GAs where everybody is there, so all units are there. So it's really and there are inputs, but also like conversations. So it's more like that, and apart from the online conversations.
Yeah. What about you, Ritu?
Well, it really helps to be a really small team. And it
How
really
small is small?
Well, I mean, the entire team, including everybody from administration to logistics is about 60 people. But bulk of it is the editorial team. It's much easier because, like you said, we do workshops. But workshops are sort of two-way exercises. The editorial team has to have a sense of ownership in this exercise. I think it also helps that we have very young newsrooms who are sort of digital first, digital native individuals who always feel that they have something from the technology point of view. So I think that watertight walls between we are editorial and we don't need to worry about the tech end of it. That's not the culture that exists, thankfully. And the leadership is largely on board.
Largely on board?
Well, I'd say 90% on board. They have about a 10%. I think the fact that we do not have, we don't crawl outside of the Quint, so that it's, that it's controlled. That it's not, there is no chance of any hallucination happening, and that you have a say over AI. So AI is not your boss, and you're the boss of AI. I think that helps.
Yeah. I mean, because AI does promise that it could do a lot of things, but as each one of you are implementing the generative AI in your product, what is it that AI is terrible at doing? Because I do think people just sometimes you get sell a future that is magic, right? But what is it that you find, what are a couple of the things that you find that AI really suck at?
I think it tries to be right, and it's not always right. It tries to project confidence. It's a very eager intern that hasn't gone through, hasn't finished school yet, doesn't know all these facts yet. So we got to really get it constrained, and it's all about how you prompt it and how you structure your prompt and make sure that it's really following the rules that you set to it. Yeah, but it's always trying to please you. So even though it doesn't have an answer, sometimes it'll try and give you an answer anyway. And that's always something that you need to keep an eye on. That especially if you're a new user, you might fall into this trap. Because it tries to be very convincing and say, I've double-checked my work and here's the wrong answer, kind of thing, yeah.
Overly confident people.
Yeah.
I think we know some of those.
And one thing to keep in mind is it's a probabilistic machine, right? It will not always come up with the same thing. What it does is really it's guessing what you want based on the words you feed it, and then coming up with a response to that. So a response now will be different. How it responds to a question now will be different from how it will respond to a question later. So consistency, looking out for consistency is one thing. The other thing that I found is and this is the reason why we had to go through that process of the knowledge graph ontology, et cetera, it's because as you said, it's trying to give an answer, right? And if I have just 50% of that context, it thinks it's already there, right? So the question is how do you ground it so that if it is not to have the exact answer, it shouldn't be responding, or it should be saying that no, I don't know, right? So that's critical. So there was one incident where I asked it about me, and at the time we haven't connected the author's database to it, and so what it was picking up was content about Gemma, and it said I'm a widow. So, so I said, okay, what's wrong here?
Are you not?
So yeah. No, I'm not.
But, so, can you just unpack in terms of like, how do you make sure, like, what are the guidelines you actually put in place to make sure that you reduce the chances of hallucination and giving you the answer, right? Because it's true, like the AI want to please you.
Yeah. So first of all, so we have a chat bot, but we're not letting it like, we are not letting the public have private conversations with it yet. Right now, it's on a public chat, so we're able to see how it's responding. And in a way, it's still on a test as far as I'm concerned. So it's able to give answers, fairly good answers. But when it's wrong, I jump in, or somebody else jumps in to like contextualize it. Or if it's, okay, there seems to be something like it responded this way. Why? So we try to find out.
And one thing we did for fast, and when you got it to summarize content, we got it to lift as much language as possible from the text itself. Sometimes it doesn't work, obviously, because then you lose a bit of the context before and after the sentence. But that's why the humans come in and give it a bit, tweak it a little bit. But otherwise, we try to lift as much as possible. And we were working on the RAG as well. Every sentence has to have a code or a point to which cell of the database that we're referring to. So we double check. So for the first few rounds when we were still trying to constrain it, it will tell us the cell number. It will give us a URL of which article it was. The URLs don't work, and the cells don't exist, for example. So we had to keep testing and constraining it.
Do everyone know what RAG is? No, so could you explain what a RAG is? Look, in generative AI, there's a lot of terminology being thrown around, and sometimes it get really confusing, right? Like LLM, RAG, multimodal. So if we can like explain what is a RAG.
So it's like retrieval augmented generation. That's what it means. I don't know who came up with the name, but basically it just refers to a database that's all its information is going to come from. It doesn't use it doesn't crawl the web, for example. It's really based on this database that you feed it.
Yeah. So it's basically using the function of the generative AI, but the data and response come from a specialized data set, so that it doesn't have all the answers, or it will still make up some answers, but not as much.
And so that's why we chose to go graph RAG, because when you're doing RAG, it's retrieving from the database, but it doesn't mean that it's able to interpret the database, right? So it's still not precisely it. Graph RAG is more, it allows for more robust processing, and it's able to like help us construct triples. So like triples are how the AI is able to come up with a sentence that is factual and based on what's in the data.
Ritu, a different question. As you're using generative AI in your product, how are you communicating with your audience that generative AI was being used? Whether it's in summarizations how did they respond? Is it something that is there feedback from the audience? Because there are research being done in the US where if you disclose that, an article or something used generative AI, it actually creates more distrust, because part of it is the public still are very confused about what this technology can do. So in your scenario, how do you disclose it, and what were some of the audience feedback?
So I'm guessing that one can assess audience feedback from the extent or time spent or the kind of engagement that content has. So one is that we're not using AI. We're constantly saying that, which is why I emphasize it even in my presentation. We're not using AI to do any journalism. So I think that's where, and we communicate that hugely. So I think that element of trust, I think where journalism is coming from AI, I think that's where the distrust is. We're really using AI to augment the reading experience or visual experience. So we use a lot of AI. The journalism is done by a human, and the AI has been made to visualize and make the content interactive. So we don't, and of course labeled wherever we're using AI. I think the problem of trust would be if I don't trust ChatGPT. I mean, for instance, if it said she's a widow, it had me married to somebody I'm not married to, and it said that I'm working at an organization where I've never stepped into. So I have very, very little trust of ChatGPT or any AI for research or journalism. I think for parsing data, for augmenting user behavior, I think I wouldn't trust. The other problem also is, for instance, in India, a lot of the mainstream large legacy organizations are also peddling disinformation and misinformation and propaganda, right? So, and AI is reading that as coming from a legit news source. So it's actually therefore curating and picking from a lot of misinformation. So that is and the other problem with AI is that it claims that it understands India and it doesn't. I mean, very often you ask AI to visualize an Indian, and you'll have a very Pocahontas kind of image coming up, right?
So,
or the language. It just doesn't get the nuances.
Yeah.
And sometimes you say, thank God for that.
Yeah. Do you think that's an opportunity? Because most of the major models, right, whether it is ChatGPT, Anthropic, Maestro, they're really, most of the data come from Western point of view, right? The only one that is from sort of the East, global South of Asia is DeepSeek. How do you guys go about choosing which model to use and knowing that each model has its own bias? How do you de-bias the model in your work for your country, right? In Singapore, Philippines, and India.
I think one thing is that we have to keep open-minded in terms of the models that you use. To be frank, we are on ChatGPT Enterprise, so it's hard for us to tell our leadership we need to buy subscribe to different models, and let's try all of them and all that. Because today, ChatGPT is better, tomorrow Gemini is better, the next day Cloud is better, right? It's hard to decide.
It is like that. I feel like week after week, you have a little bit of like AI whiplash, right? They keep coming out with new features.
Which is why I always say, do not spend too much on any one tool, because tomorrow this tool is going to be uncool and there's going to be something cooler. So be careful how you spend on AI.
Yeah. So key advice there, don't spend all your time on one tool.
Yeah, and that's why the build really is not about the AI per se, but really on how we're strengthening our data infrastructure, like making it more robust, enriching that data set, and feeding it with the information that our journalists, linking it to the process of the editorial group. So it's not about using a model. What we're trying to do is to have an infrastructure that we can link to any model so that we can make the most of AI.
I think how we're working on it is we're constantly feeding information and saying where you're wrong, what the nuances, and giving it more information, both in terms of visual imagery or data, and I come pretty close to using expletives with saying, why aren't you getting it? But I think it's like working with a petulant teen.
Like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
But the good thing is they don't talk back at you. They when you call them they're wrong, they
apologize immediately.
They apologize immediately. They move on. It's actually really pleasant.
But then they get it wrong again. Yeah. I think part of it is also making sure that as a newsroom, we own the content that we publish, whether it's summaries, whether it's video content that we use text to video, for example, that the producer, the journalist owns this content. And so there's always, the human has to be in the loop no matter what, I feel. That we don't just close one eye and say, oh, it's good enough, you'll get the context, we feed it enough data already. There's just a high chance of still getting it wrong.
I'm going to open for a question just in a bit. So all of you talk about human in the loop. So I just want to stay in the moment of the human. How has the jobs of journalists changing because of AI? Right? Because a lot of journalists say, will AI take my job? In my belief is, it won't, but it will replace the journalist that doesn't use AI. So as you're thinking about the next generation of journalists, obviously in university we have a lot of students, what are the key skills that you think that they should have to be a great journalist in the age of AI?
Well, data savvy is one. So the foundation is still data journalism. So we torture our I torture our team all the time. Like we have these data jams, data journalism training, so that they know how to work with data. That's number one. The other thing is like experiment. I mean, when we started this out, like I did quite a number of courses on Coursera, other online courses. So it's there's tools, there's learning materials out there, and they should keep on experimenting.
Experimenting. What about you, Alvin, in the newsroom?
I think what makes us journalists sometimes is really the curiosity that we have, and we should be curious in terms of trying out these new tools to figure out what works for us and what doesn't work for us, so we can implement it in our workflow in some way. You know, one thing that we did was to have a hackathon with all the journalists. You know, and tell us what's your problem in the newsroom and how do you think you can solve it with GenAI, and that actually helped to pick up the usage of GenAI in the newsroom after that, because they realized it's not so scary. You know, we forced them to sit down for half a day, don't do other work, sit down half a day, just use ChatGPT. And then they get a sense of, oh, I can use this for this and that, and I shouldn't use it for this, because it's going to hallucinate, for example. Then you get them a bit more confident, they get a bit more curious, and once you have the success stories like you see, Fast, for example, getting the number of views going up, you share it with the newsroom and tell them, hey, it's working out for us. You know, it's not perfect, you know, but let's get there. And then people get curious about success as well. So then you share these success stories with them. You know, hopefully you win awards, that's always good. And then, you know, then people get a bit more excited. And people come to you and say, how can I use AI in this? You know, we've seen cases in the newsroom where someone will come up to me and say, hey, I just used ChatGPT to come up with this tool to help us with creating Instagram posts, for example, to draft the first draft. And I didn't even ask them to do that. They were like, oh, let's try it out and see whether it works well. And it got about 80% of the way. We're still fine-tuning the tool. But, you know, this curiosity, this willing to try and make things easier for you so you can focus on the difficult stuff of like doing your research and meeting people and interviewing them, then, you know, they realize you can spend less time on the grunt work and more time on the impactful work. Yeah.
I think what we were very clear is before we open up the use of AI in the newsroom, we need to have a very detailed guideline. So we did, it's virtually a 21-page, which of course we use ChatGPT to get the top summary of, a detailed guideline on how we're okay with using AI and how we're not okay with using AI. And I think, and then we did like Gemma's jams, we also did jams on that. And the other thing that we did is we have a quarterly sort of newsroom award, and we've got this AI innovation as a quarterly award to whoever in the newsroom does it responsibly.
So you guys hear it? Internal hackathon as a way to inspire internal use. There are the jams, which I guess for some is torturous, but it's really about spreading information, you know, like scaling up the knowledge and create internal incentive. Is a third way to really get more people to use AI. So I'm going to open up for questions. Please state your name, and I would encourage you to make your question as succinct and direct as possible. And for the panelists, don't feel like you have to answer every single question. Really answer that one that really speaks to you, so we could get more questions. The gentleman in the back.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting discussion. I'm Howie Severino from GMA Network in the Philippines. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you involve AI in production of content that's published? Alvin mentioned that AI generates summaries of your articles, but do you use AI to generate headlines, for example? Where do you draw the line? What are some of the precautions? And do you foresee a time when much more content, publishable content, will be produced by AI?
Thank you.
I think, as mentioned, we kind of have to draw the line very carefully. We have to set these guidelines out to make sure that, you know, we don't just use AI for every single part of an article. So even for headlines, for example, the way we use AI in headlines is that we use it to measure our A/B testing, but we still get our humans to craft the various different headlines to test for the audience. So I get what you mean, because it just feels like, especially if you're a reporter, you're crushed for deadlines, and you know your editor's not watching, so maybe you just craft a few headlines with ChatGPT or something like that. But no matter, even if they do that, and hopefully they trust their own writing enough, right? The editor still needs to be in the loop as well to vet a thing. So it's not just one person vetting. Sometimes there's a deeper process, especially for articles, especially for video content. It's not going to be, oh, I generated this, I vetted myself, and I'm good to go. There's going to be some things you need extra layers, especially for things which that you don't have the option to put this was generated with AI, for example. Like, you don't want to plaster it all over your website also, for that matter. Yeah.
Our CMS has some AI features built into it. So we use it to trigger metadata on a story. We use it to trigger a social media sort of tease for the story. We use it to suggest a headline, but we have currently disabled it because we don't want people to start depending on AI so early to be doing it. But it's largely to really help the discoverability of that story. Those are the features that our CMS. It has several other features, but these are the two big features that we are using.
Yeah, it's mainly assistive. So in the crafting of a subhead, for instance, the blurb of an article, what we found is that the AI tends to be conservative. So the editor, the journalist tends to be more like to identify what is more meaty about the subject rather than the AI. So it picks up the facts, but not really like the more important, like what is important, what is more important about the subject matter. So those are the things that we're finding. So it's really, even in the crafting of an article or a short profile, what we found is like you still need, the editor is still there, really like trimming, like making sure that the more important stuff are surfaced.
And just to elaborate the question, have you guys used generative AI in photo, video, and audio? Because we tend to focus so much on text products.
We use it for a lot of our immersives, stories that have visuals, interactives, and largely visual stories, which also have video built into them. So we use a lot of Mid-Journey for that.
Some text to video for shorts, but again, that goes through the editors and so on.
Thank you. We have a question up front here. Yeah, I could come. Okay, great.
Thank you. Nabia from Indonesia. You touched a little bit about feedback. I wonder if after the implementation of your tools, it has translated into increase of readership, or is it more internal, like with the same or less cost, it increases your quality of products? So basically, does it make sense business-wise?
Yeah, so maybe a reframe of the question. Could you talk about, in terms of internal use of AI, sort of time save, resource efficiency? Externally, has AI actually convert to revenue?
What I can say is like it helps with volume. So for instance, journalists hate raw like plain
Journalists
articles.
hates a lot of things.
Like they don't like doing profile, the bland profiles, because they like the stories, like they like narrative. So but during elections, you need profiles of people who are running for candidates. So like part of where we are using AI is like really like coming up with the bios, like based on the data sets we have, coming up with information about candidates. And if I ask our journalists to do that, they would hate me. So it's the AI that helps us with that. And what we found in the last elections was people are interested in information, like succinct information about people running for public office. And in the Philippines, particularly because of the leading parties were not really like palatable to a lot of people. So we found ahead of the elections that people were cramming on the profile pages. So that's a very good use case of the content that's there.
I think for us as well, I mentioned that dwell time and readership has gone up. So that also means that our ads get seen by more people. Then straight away, that's helps with profit right there. I wouldn't say ChatGPT or whatever is going to be the cheapest thing out there, especially if you go for a pro enterprise version. It can cost quite a bit after a while, depending on how much you use it. But so far, at the very least, we have increased the dwell time. We also can increase the video output. I think one thing we did do is that we convert articles to video through a script, and then we vet it, of course. But that helps us to get to the production side of editing the video faster instead of scripting it from scratch. And you know, Instagram, TikTok, they love content. They want to suck up as much content as you can give it. So the more you feed the beast, the more the beast is happy in some way. So I mean, we don't want to just feed it nonsense and just mindlessly feed it, but we want to just reduce the time that we need to spend on feeding that beast there.
Yeah, likewise for us, the time spent has gone up considerably. We actually believe that the internet does not need more information. I think so we don't want to use AI to publish more SEO-driven stories or, just increase volume of content. But we hope to put some of these features behind our membership paywall if we find that they are successful. So you can only get to have this interactive experience if you become a member.
Okay, there's a question in the back.
Hi, my name is Jan. I'm a data journalist from Myanmar. I work a lot with the small and medium-sized newsrooms all around the region. I have two questions. One is, so you guys have all said you have small teams of engineers that you've built for building out all the tech. What do you look for when you're hiring the people who are building out this tech? That's number one. And number two, all of you guys have been talking about your CMSs. And it looks like there's lots of functionalities built into your CMS, with content management system, which I guess, just defining terms. Do you build out custom CMSs, or do you use something from a vendor?
We have our own custom CMS, which is also available for, there are 100 other publishers on it. It's called Quint type. We don't have any engineers on our team. So all of that we've been doing right now has been done with just using AI, not a single, word, letter of coding. It's a team of two people. One is actually an editorial person who does journalism as well, and there's one other person. So it's as lean as that.
So it's like prompting and vibe coding?
Yeah, it's pretty much that, yeah.
We have, so we build on top of open source content management systems, but we customize it significantly. So like the knowledge graph content, the structured content has been built by us. The structure to the entire scheme of it is customized by us.
We don't use a customized. We use a off-the-shelf CMS, but it's been modified so much I don't recognize it anymore. And I think when we need to patch it to the next version, we're going to die because it's so customized at this point. But so we built tools on top of it. But when you talk about engineers, that's the engineering team. I don't have as much say. I don't choose who gets hired. But within the team, I think if I'm going to hire someone who's going to help me with AI, it's all about that curiosity, all about that willingness to give it a try. And it helps that if you're a bit of a nerd or a geek, yeah.
Yeah, so we only 2 minutes left, and I want to give the speakers an opportunity to sort of summarize. If there's one thing that you could say, what is the one thing that everyone could do starting tomorrow to start the AI journey? What would be your one advice?
I think just give it a go and don't be afraid. Find out what works for you, as I mentioned. Don't be, and then find out what doesn't work for you. So you draw the lines early on. And of course, these models will evolve as well. So you need to evolve together with it. And I think also we just don't forget. I think reading news every day. I think all of us are depressed in some way. And news is depressing. But don't forget to have fun. Don't just use ChatGPT for work. Just play around with it. Find out what you can do as well, just to get yourself used to it. And spread a bit of fun in the newsroom as well. So not everybody's just hammering away at the keyboards all day long. Yeah.
Something that's different than that advice.
Okay, I was gonna say play, because it's really that. I mean, like my latest playmate is Notebook LLM. I've been playing around with it,
LLM, yeah.
Dumping stuff over it, and then being scared over the podcast of it. So, but the point of that is like really curiosity and so on. Just play.
Okay, Ritu?
Attend Paul's sessions, as I did yesterday, to know how to, every tool and tip to be the boss of AI, and rather than let AI sort of overwhelm you, know how to use it. I think you need some experts to give that to you. Otherwise, you might land up spending way too much time doing something that other people have done for you and, figure out how to get around it.
Well, yeah, and just be willing to learn, right? Because, I mean, Paul said, maybe I don't need to be there, but I was learning from his session as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, there's so much going on in AI anyway. We can't learn everything at one go. We need to keep your mind open and learn as well, and keep learning on what the new models are, how to prompt and all that, yeah.
So you heard it from the panelists. No one is an expert yet, so there's still a lot of opportunity for you to use AI and figure out what is the most curious and interesting way of applying that to journalism. And so with that, thank you panelists, and thank you audience for joining us this morning.
Thank you.